General Hospital spoilers teasing that betrayal's razor-sharp edges are poised to slice through Port Charles's core, revealing a web of lies and deceit so tangled that no family will emerge unscarred. The revelation lands like a thunderclap. Amelia Corinthos is not the biological daughter of Michael Corinthos and Willow Corinthos. Everything Port Charles believed about the gentle cradle of family, the picture-perfect union of Michael and Willow, now unravels into a tapestry of carefully cultivated falsehoods. The whisperings began innocently enough, an offhand remark about a birth record, a curious glance at a medical chart, yet the implications grew monstrous as evidence mounted. In hushed conference rooms at General Hospital, heads bowed over DNA reports. In the opulent drawing rooms of the Corinthos penthouse, whispered confrontations crackled with accusation. And at the eye of the storm stand two figures once trusted. Willow Corinthos, the devoted mother, and Drew Kane, her confidant turned co-conspirator. From the outset, their marriage to Michael seemed ordained by fate. The vows exchanged before family and friends glowed with the promise of unity and love. Yet those vows were never about Michael's passions or Willow's loyalty. They were a premeditated maneuver, an alliance forged long ago between Willow and Drew, drawn in secrecy and nurtured in shadows, all aimed at securing custody of not one, but both of the beloved Corinthos children, Wiley and Amelia. Every tender glance Willow cast at Michael, every trembling whisper of commitment, had been calibrated to ensnare him. Every act of domestic harmony replaced a piece of Willow's hidden agenda. The truth of Willow's deception traces back to the moment she confided in Drew her greatest vulnerability, her own fragility, both physical and emotional. In those hushed exchanges, Drew revealed a clandestine plan to locate Liesl Albrecht, whose expertise in experimental transplants might save Willow's failing health. Willow, still carrying Drew's unborn child, had been mortally threatened by complications no conventional treatment could resolve. Far from being a spontaneous act of heroism, Drew's voyage to retrieve Liesl was the first move in a long gambit to win Drew and Willow legal dominance over both of Michael's children. As Willow's condition deteriorated, Michael was left to believe that only the generosity of Drew's mission could restore his wife to health, never once questioning why the mission existed in the first place. Michael, ever the compassionate hero, blessed Drew's journey. He trusted that Drew's loyalty lay with family. He didn't know that Drew's motives were streaked with ambition and betrayal. When Liesl used her medical prowess to save Willow and her unborn daughter, the Corinthos household cheered a triumph of science and compassion. But the celebration masked a darker victory. Drew's confidence that the gratitude Michael felt would blind him to the pact that Drew and Willow had long sealed in secret. With Willow's health restored and her pregnancy carried to term, the next phase of their plan would unfold: dismantle Michael's parentage credentials over Amelia and paint a narrative of paternal unfitness that no court could ignore. Long before the small stumbles in DNA charts surfaced, Drew and Willow laid groundwork both subtle and insidious. Documents were altered to show inconsistencies in maternity and paternity testing. Medical staff were coached to mislabel samples. A network of whispers emerged, suggesting that Michael had become distant after Amelia's birth, not from grief or fatigue, but because of some undisclosed transgression. Willow's tearful confessions, staged under the soft lighting of their marital bedroom, played out like a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Michael, consumed by gratitude for Drew's intervention and the faint hope that Willow's health would remain stable, never saw the trap tightening around him. And then came the explosion at the Corinthos penthouse rooftop, the violent blast that should have claimed Michael's life. In its aftermath, Michael's body was broken, his spirit battered, and his faith in those he loved shattered. Drew and Willow watched from the sidelines as he was rushed to specialized burn units in Germany, his recovery painstaking and his vulnerability on display before the world. Unbeknownst to Michael, the explosion itself was the ultimate stroke of treachery. An inside job masterminded by Drew and Willow to remove him from Port Charles, isolate him in foreign care, and pave the way for their undisputed claim to both children. Locked away in German clinics, Michael fought through excruciating pain, each burn treatment reminding him of the family he'd lost. Yet he could barely grasp the nature of their betrayal. Still, even amid his suffering, the walls of deception began to crack. A shadow showed itself in the form of an anonymous tip, a message indicating that the explosion was no accident, but a calculated attack. Fueled by the detective's instincts planted in his DNA by his late mother, Anna Devane, Michael surreptitiously commissioned a private investigator to trace the blast's origins, to gather shards of evidence that pointed away from rival mobsters or random malefactors and straight toward the pair he trusted most. Back in Port Charles, while Michael convalesced in isolation, Drew and Willow moved with predatory precision. They petitioned the court for temporary custody of Wiley and Amelia, citing Michael's medical incapacity and ongoing treatment overseas. They painted themselves as selfless saviors, Willow the devoted mother and Drew the protective guardian. Friends and neighbors nodded with sympathy as they spoke of Michael's fragile state, never imagining that behind their sorrow lay strategic calculation. Yet Michael's investigator unearthed crucial leads, surveillance footage showing Drew near critical areas of the penthouse just hours before the blast, financial transactions from Willow's accounts to a private contractor who had tampered with the building's gas lines, and cryptic text messages between the two conspirators that revealed a chilling lack of remorse. Armed with this proof, Michael prepared his return to Port Charles. Not as a wounded victim, but as a man on a mission to reclaim his life, his children, and his shattered trust. The countdown began. The upcoming custody hearing would be their reckoning. It would occur in the same courthouse where Carly Spencer once fought for Michael's own rights as a father, where the stained benches had absorbed testimonies of love and betrayal alike. Now, Michael would stand to expose Willow's duplicity and Drew's treachery. The courtroom, set against the town's anxious buzz, promised to be a crucible of emotion. Witnesses would be cross-examined, Lawrence from General Hospital who signed off on medical records, technicians from the penthouse who were paid to plant evidence, even Liesl Albrecht herself, who could attest to the lengths Drew went to save Willow, without ever questioning why. When Michael walked into that courtroom, scarred but resolute, a hush would fall. He would present the surveillance clips. Drew's shadow stalking corridors, Willow's gleaming smile concealing a heart of steel. He would reveal the shell corporation used to fund the sabotage, the bank statements traced back to Willow's accounts, and the forensic analysis showing that the explosion's epicenter had been meticulously chosen to inflict maximum harm on Michael alone. As each piece of evidence was laid bare, Drew and Willow's facades would crumble, their practiced tears exposing the rot of calculation beneath. But Michael's plan was not only retribution, it was redemption. Though Amelia was not his biological child, he would stand before the judge and declare his unwavering love for her. He would vow to protect both babies, Amelia and Wiley, as fiercely as any father. He would argue that true parentage is defined not merely by blood, but by devotion, sacrifice, and integrity, qualities he embodied, despite the burns he bore as proof of his ordeal. As the judge weighed the evidence, the silent gallery, made up of Port Charles's elite, from Sonny Corinthos to Anna Devane, would bear witness to a family's implosion and potential rebirth. Drew's fate, entwined with Willow's ambition, would hang in the balance. The gavel's final strike would signal not only the end of their schemes, but the unmasking of the lengths to which desperation can drive the human heart. And when the courtroom cleared, Michael would emerge with an open heart and open arms, ready to raise Amelia as though she were born of his own flesh. In her baby eyes, he would find the strength to forgive Willow's deception, not forget, but to heal and to build a new family founded on the bedrock of truth. For in Port Charles, where every secret has a price, the greatest victory lies in the fearless embrace of honesty, no matter how excruciating the cost. In the hushed stillness of the courtroom's aftermath, Michael stood alone for a moment, watching light dance through the high windows. He felt the weight of every scar, physical and emotional, yet his spirit soared. As witnesses filed out, their faces etched with shock or sympathy, he allowed himself a steadying breath. His victory was not born of bitterness, but of truth's undeniable force. Amelia, her wide eyes mirroring the oak-paneled solemnity of the room, clung to Willow's hand, innocent of the currents that had brought them here. Wiley, too, looked on with a mixture of relief and tentative hope, sensing that a new chapter awaited. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed. Reporters clamored for sound bites, questions about Drew Kane's motives, Willow's betrayal, and Michael's unwavering devotion. He answered none of them directly, gently guiding Amelia into the waiting arms of a kindly social worker before kneeling to embrace Wiley. In that embrace lay his silent promise to protect his son and daughter through every storm, to nurture their trust as fiercely as he nurtured his own heart. Only then did he face the cameras, offering a measured statement of gratitude for justice, for family, and for the chance to begin anew. Not far off, Willow and Drew sat in the holding area, hands bound but spirits frayed beyond measure. Willow's eyes, once glistening with calculated resolve, brimmed now with unbidden tears. She whispered apologies into the space between them, apologies meant for Michael, for Amelia, for her own fractured soul. Drew, stripped of bravado, stared at the ground, the hollow victory of his machinations dissolving into ash. With each guard's approach, the finality of arrest settled upon them like a shroud. No longer puppet masters, they were actors exposed, left only to reckon with the wreckage they had wrought. Meanwhile, in the quiet corridors of General Hospital, news of Michael's triumph and the arrests rippled through the staff. Carly Spencer, who had once faced him in court over custody issues, now offered a warm, approving nod as she passed him by. Her own experiences with family betrayal had given her empathy for his ordeal. In her eyes, he saw acknowledgement of a shared resilience. Anna Devane, stoic as ever, met his gaze with a soldier's salute, silent recognition of the detective's son who had weathered battles both personal and political to emerge whole. And what of Alexis Davis? Facing her own reckoning with the Cassadine legacy, she stepped into the dust of the courtroom's aftermath to find her name cleared of public scandal, thanks in no small measure to evidence of coercion and blackmail she could finally reveal. Free from the shadow of false accusations, she turned to her granddaughter, Christina, who had returned to Port Charles under the veil of anonymity. Mother and daughter stood in quiet solidarity, their bond tempered by the crucible of shared hardship. Together, they would face the consequences of Christina's actions, repair the fractures in their family, and, perhaps, rediscover the meaning of unconditional love. As twilight descended on Port Charles, Sonny Corinthos watched his son's family reunification from the threshold of the courthouse. In his arms, Willow's younger brother Nate rested, too young to comprehend the day's gravity, but old enough to sense the relief that emanated from Michael's embrace. Sonny's own heart, long guarded by layers of tragedy and responsibility, softened. He recalled the many battles he had fought in the name of family, and he offered a silent prayer of thanks that, for once, justice had layered mercy atop its scales. The night air carried the promise of renewal. Michael escorted Amelia and Wiley to a vintage blue SUV, the same one he had driven months before, now fully restored, its dents and scratches buffed away as if to symbolize his own journey from brokenness to hope. He buckled them into their car seats, then turned back to the silent street, where his friends and allies, Spinelli, Lois, Dante, Lulu, stood waiting. One by one, they approached with small tokens, a plush bear, a bouquet of daisies, a promise of unwavering support. In that circle of love, Michael found the strength to look forward, confident that Port Charles, for all its darkness, still nurtured light. And so the story of betrayal gave way to a saga of redemption. Michael Corinthos, bearing scars both visible and unseen, would move forward as a father forged by adversity, a man whose capacity to forgive transcended the wounds inflicted upon him. As for Willow and Drew, their names would be spoken in hushed tones. A cautionary tale of ambition unchecked and secrets too costly to keep. But for those who stood with Michael, this was but the beginning, a testament to the belief that in a town built on secrets, the greatest power lies in choosing truth, and that love, when guided by honesty, can heal even the deepest wounds.